the limb targeting or limb control is paramount, especially when you're empty-handed. You don't want to let that thing be free too much. Shocking the limb, grabbing is okay. Keep in mind you have no weapon, and also keep in mind this is because you can't get away. You have no choice. Otherwise, it's always better to bail when there's a knife involved. With that said, we can't leave, so we have to deal with it. When something is coming at your neck in an arc, it's shiny and sharp, you have to stop the bone, hand, the stepping action, the opponent's mobility. But primary importance is this, okay? That's my humble opinion. So with that said, pretend this arm has a knife sticking out, okay? If it's swinging at my head and I'm going to stop it, that's a very good start, all right? Obviously, in and of itself, I can't stay in this position. I have to do something. That's where the shock comes in. So when something comes at you, bang, now I'm on this side of it, okay? If the arm is here, you grab it. Pow! Okay, pop your shoulder into the elbow. Don't worry about whether they let go or not. You have a nice grab on the arm. You have a hold of this bad boy. From there, you finish, okay? Now, 9 times out of 10, when you do an elbow extension, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt real bad, especially if it's done with full power. We practice this a lot in Hapkido. So, again, top, bang, okay? When you pull, you snap it in. Pow! Okay, you step forward, snap it in. Then if you can, push away and run. Okay, that's just one option with the slash coming this way, okay? Another option is to pass it, right? Come in, shoulder bro. It's another option. The first option was basically coming forward, up under the knife here, get around. The second option, okay, is pass. You zone out. Go back in again, elbow slam. Okay, you slam in his elbow with your shoulder, and you pop it hard. Okay, you probably hear it pop or break. It's a very powerful technique. A lot of people don't practice it. Now, you're probably asking yourself, how come I suggest coming forward when somebody has a knife? Well, it just makes sense. Especially if you can't run away. You're letting that thing be free. The longer you let that free, the worse it is. A good knifer, or somebody who really means business, they're going to cut for your hands anyway, if they're smart. You're hoping that they're not that smart. They're going to try to cut for your cavity or your neck, but if they're really smart, they're going to take care of your limbs first. You know, and that's an option too. But if they're already coming there, you could tap the hand. There's a lot of things you do. You have to practice it, obviously. But the empty hand part is by far, obviously, the most scary when you're up against the knife. I know I'd rather run, but, you know, there's times you can't. You know, it could be a beer bottle. It could be anything sharp. Or for that matter, it could be anything. But my point is these concepts work. And if you notice, the concept I'm using hasn't changed a lot from the first few videos. And that's the whole point. You don't want to practice a whole array of techniques. You want to hone it down to a concept that works. In this case, this is high lined. Okay? High line is from your elbows up. Low line is from your elbows down. Middle line, for me, is at the elbows. That's a very difficult spot because if you take your hands and you stick them straight out at elbow line, your fingers are pretty much straight. Obviously, you raise them up, your fingertips are up. If you drop them, your fingertips are down. The elbow line is by far the most difficult to make a decision with. So usually it'll be a sweeping motion. Some people try to turn. Turning like this is not a good idea. Sweeping away and having control of the limb, you try to draw the person. Remember what I mentioned, breaking balance? That's a very underrated concept. That's a must when you're in an adrenaline state. And it's a must when your person's really coming to hurt you. You have to control their balance. meaning you want to disrupt it and you want to keep your own if possible. So these are things that when you practice this arm bag, it's pretty cool because it'll move. Now, when we start mentioning, let's take thrust for instance, okay? When a thrust is coming forward, remember this motion where we block? Well, the same hand position, the whole object is, when a thrust comes, if it's the right hand, you're going to move to the outside of the hand, right? Arm bar, bang, okay? Practice here, bang. What I'm doing though, when I step to the side, when this here, I'm hooking the forearm, okay? And I'm stepping across the front of my opponent, bang, okay? And I'm popping his elbow. So what you're doing is you're hyperextending the elbow, okay? And you could also damage the shoulder joint a little bit there. You have to shock the limb if it's going to let go, okay? If that guy's got that knife and you pop his elbow hard, he's going to let go of the knife. He's not going to have a lot of compromise on it. If you don't get a good shot at it, you can always twist back the other way and do a wrist throw. Okay, you can pop him, you can knee him, you can elbow him. There's a lot of things you can do. But I'm talking about the first few seconds, when that pucker time moment, where you have to sit there and actually make a decision. So it's real important to practice things that are 1, 2, 3. And for me, this is why I practice on the arm bag. And I have a series of 10 things that I do. And that's all. But that's with any attack. Okay? High, low, and elbow line. I call elbow line middle, like I already explained. Okay, now the other thing with the thrust, okay, we talked about the pass here, okay? If you remember with a knife, you zone out and cut, okay? You pass and you cut, right? Well, this can also be a strike. You hit the back of the hand, you hit the flexors, okay? And you want your hands, this striking hand, you want it like this. You don't need it straight. You don't want to hit like this. You hit like this. Okay, the side, right at the fold of the wrist. So when the back of the hand is here and the wrist up's here, it'll go around the corner. It's down hard. The knife hand is going to let go of the blade. Why? Because it put the wrist around the corner. If you want to try something, try to hang on to something. Put your wrist around the corner, okay? Push down on it and try to hang on to something. It's not easy to do. So when you shock somebody's wrist like that, 9 times out of 10, it's going to at least compromise the grip enough. You might be able to strip it and run, okay? But the object is to strike fast and hard. You ain't playing here. This is the important thing with trying to do these things, and that's why the arm bag dummy is so good. Okay? Now, when you practice that strike, okay, you might want to put a foam. If you make yourself one of these, get a foam that you can strike, okay? But you're trying to learn how to fold the wrist, okay? You want to hit it and you want it to fold. That's how the knife gets let go. That's why it'll fly out. You know, you've seen a lot of people demonstrate it in the movies or other people's demos. But it's a valid technique. Although something happens fast, bang, okay? You hit out, then you bail. Or you get away. If you have to, 9 times out of 10, when somebody braces you, you're going to have to go around them to get away from them because they've entrapped you in the first place. If you're paying attention, you don't get in those positions. Okay? That's a whole nother tape of awareness. Okay? Now, the other thing I'm going to address is going to elbow line. Let me drop this arm real quick. Okay, we're back. Now see, this is elbow line. It's down here, it's about where my elbow is, okay? Now, when you're working the elbow line, the better things to do is pass the arm. Swing it wide, pass it through. You zone out, okay? Pretty simple. Because that level is difficult. Something swinging at you, so you always find it easy to pass the line and then enter back in. You never pass and just bump the knife. Never just push the knife away. When all possible, you want to control that weapon-bearing limb. And then you want to compromise their limbs. Okay, obviously their legs too, their feet. Stomp on them. Okay, the way I was taught, there's 3 main target areas in a self-defense situation: sight, obviously our eyes; air, throat, solar plexus; mobility, the limbs. Okay, legs and feet. Those are the 3 main targets you want to concentrate on when you're talking about speed, when you talk about shock and awe and shut the function down. They work, but you have to practice them. So it's not per se martial arts, all right? This is all self-defense strategy, okay, of an overall basic personal safety thing, okay? That's pretty much what I'm about, and that's what I like to teach. But getting back to this bag, when you practice a passing motion, don't just see where the tip of the arm is. Don't just let it get to here. Yes, they're reaching for you. You want them to reach. Step and reach. When they do, you zone out. As that knife comes in, you parry it. Then you get back in on the elbow. Okay? And from this point, when you're down this low, just arm ball, pop. Drop down on the elbow, pop it. Okay, it works. So, those are just some ideas of going for empty hand. The next time I come back online and show a video, I'm going to be dealing with low line. And people, good knifers will try to attack the legs. And so you'll find that the concepts are all the same. But when you're working the different heights, it's a different demand of your body. And nobody expects anybody to cut the legs. Nobody expects anybody to cut your hands. People typically think of abdominal strikes and throat slashes and that kind of stuff to kill somebody. Yes, that will kill somebody. It doesn't stop them immediately. Attacking the limbs does. The thing to understand is it's that simple. If you cut the flexor severe enough, the cables don't work. I love it. That's what seems to work to me. Now, with the empty hand perspective, if you can shock it enough, you also compromise the grip. And the other part about this is you want to shock them enough to take their mind. And it's not just one thing. You know, you strike the flexors and hit them in the eyes, okay? Push them away and bail. So you want to practice that aspect too. You don't just want to go through the motions. You want to build up to the point where you're actually under attack, obviously with the proper equipment and proper training knife, that should go without saying. And you want to really practice getting away. You know, that's really important. Have your partner put goggles on or a football helmet with a visor so they can practice striking at your eyes, you know. Put some pads on your arm. They can practice actually hitting your flexors. Plus you get an idea of what that's like. So it's a partner practice situation. I think that's probably one of the best ways to train for this kind of stuff is actual partner practice. But you can't play around. You have to really go for it. And the flip side of it, it's a ton of fun and it's great exercise, you know, and it's hard to piss your partner off if you pad up right. But when you're training, you feel and you work on taking each other's balance and you work on getting away. That's another important part. Work on getting away. Push and bolt. Be able to run for 10 feet. Sprint. Okay, distance buys you time. And, you know, that's all I really wanted to touch about with the empty hand stuff. Like I said, I've been having a lot of fun doing these little tutorials, and I'm going to continue to do them because I have a lot to show you. And it's strictly the way I train and the apparatuses that I use. And all this stuff is